So today's topic for discussion is how can we better inspect existing assets and reduce disruption to end users? Joining me to talk through the issues and the barriers to achieving improvements, we have Transport Scotland Chief Bridge Engineer Hazel McDonald, Highways England Asset Manager Lila Tachtsi, and Network Rail Principal Engineer Ben Wilkinson. Welcome to you all and thank you all for joining us today. We're going to be taking some questions from the audience a bit later, so don't forget to add those into the chat function. If you've been keeping up with the news on NCE's website, then I don't think you'll need to remind you about why bridge inspections are so critical. Just this year, we've reported on the collapse of a metro bridge in Mexico City, which sadly claimed the lives of 23 people. And the crack that was discovered in the Hernando de Soto Bridge across the Mississippi in the US apparently had gone unnoticed by inspectors for at least 2 years. With those incidents in mind, let's start off by considering how well the risk-based inspection regime used in the UK works, and are we at risk of similar incidents in the UK? Lila, do you want to kick us off with that one?
Yes, I would. Thank you very much. The two very different questions there, Claire. So let's start with the risk-based approach to inspections. The introduction, well, we introduced in this country the risk-based approach to inspections to optimize the way we use our resources. How is it working for us in Highways England? It is working very well. I think it is not a secret that a couple of years back, I think it's actually 3 years ago, we managed to build up a backlog of inspections, both principals and general inspections. And we did use our risk-based approach to clear that backlog. And we have stayed on top of things. We make sure that we do carry out the right inspection at the right time, at the right place. But more to that, what the risk-based approach enables us to do is do the inspections in the right way, using the right skills, the right resources, the right technology, so that we can focus where we want to go. The whole point of bridge inspections, structures inspections, is to manage risks associated with our assets. And this is a question, the question you ask, will we ever have a Genoa? Will we ever have a Mexico incident in the UK? I think it is an extremely difficult question to answer. And it is one that we get answered by our board in Highways England all the time. So every time I am invited to go and speak to our board, this question does come up. And we have all, if I'm honest, we've all become very good at avoiding to answer that question, to give you a lot of information. But what we are doing very effectively, we are managing the risks associated, the serious risk associated with our assets. And what we can tell you for sure is that we have not had an incident like that in the Highways England network since the creation of Highways England and before that as a highways agency. So that gives us the confidence that we do the right things at the right time in the right place.
Thank you. Sorry, I am putting you on the spot today. So Hazel, what about Transport Scotland? Where do you sit with that?
In Transport Scotland, we decided not to implement the risk-based inspection programme, and we kept the inspections at 2 years for a GI and 6 years for a PI. In some respects, if we have structures where we have particular issues, we will shorten those timescales, but we're not pushing out those timescales to be able to deal with a backlog. I suppose we're in a slightly better position in that we've got about a third of the number of structures that Highways England has to manage. Okay, they're spread out of a large geographical area, from lots of rural structures, a lot of older structures rather than modern motorway structures or dual carriageways. So we took the decision not to implement the risk-based inspection method by pushing out the dates, and to leave them at 2 and 6 years, but to bring in those ones that we thought that perhaps had a higher risk. So where you would maybe do a special inspection in between, you would maybe stick in another principal inspection or add another special inspection in that location. To say that we wouldn't have a Genoa, I don't think any of us can say that with any certainty. Bridge inspection and management of structures is such a difficult thing to quantify. There are so many factors of safety in there that we can't even model properly. We do analysis of structures and decide that actually they can't carry their self-weight, but they're actually performing perfectly adequately just now. So there are lots of unknowns in there. So I don't think we can say with any certainty that we wouldn't have a Genoa, but I would like to think that the processes and procedures that we have in place, that we are actually inspecting our structures up close and personal and principal inspections, would mitigate that risk significantly.
That's good to hear. Ben, what about you? What's the situation with Network Rail? I think you've got yourself on mute. There should be a control at the bottom of your screen. Oh dear, we seem to be having a bit of trouble with Ben's audio. But we're trying to wait for that, sort that out. Ben, have you managed to turn your mute off? No. I don't know whether the people in the tech room can help sort that out. So let's move on to the next question. How can inspections be improved to reduce interventions and move from a reactive maintenance to perhaps a more proactive approach? Lila, can you kick us off with that one? Sorry, I keep picking on you first.
I will. That's okay. I hope Ben sorts out the problem as quickly as possible. Right. I would like to answer that question by taking a step back. I don't think inspections on their own can help us to move to a more proactive approach. I think overall, what we need to do is we need to look at the end-to-end approach to managing our structures assets so that we can implement a more proactive approach to maintenance. I hope that we're going to talk a little bit more today in this panel about how do we deal with customer, how do we deal with delays on the network, how do we make sure that actually we deliver the service that we need to deliver with minimum disruption to our customers. And that does very much mean the right treatment at the right time. That very much means a proactive approach to how we do maintenance. So for me, it is the end-to-end process about asset management process about minimizing disruption, and it is not just about inspections themselves. Of course, what we do need to do with inspections is we need to make sure that we are equipped to analyze the information that we get from inspections, that we understand what that data tells us so that we can implement the proactive approach.
Sorry, just to interrupt and go back again. Ben, have you got your audio back?
Can you hear me? Yes, apologies.
Yes, we can hear you now. So let's
Brilliant.
take a step back and actually, if you have just a chat about what the situation is with Network Rail and your approach to risk-based bridge assessments.
So Network Rail operates an examination regime that contains a visual general inspection annually and a principal detailed inspection at a risk-based interval between 3 and 12 years for the vast majority of structures. So we moved away from a 6-yearly interval probably a decade or so ago, and we've got lots of experience now that we can draw on in sort of understanding the risk factors that affect our assets and selecting the correct regime for them. I think it's really interesting what the others said around failures. I mean, we obviously want safe bridges that perform reliably. And if we look back in time, I mean, the railway structures go back 180 years or more now. We can see how the inspection regime has developed as a result of past incidents and research. We had the Tay and then Bury Bridge, Bury Station footbridge, and more recently Stewarton, that have all added to our standards and what we do. And I think the most important thing is that we continue to learn and that we act on the additional knowledge we gain. So that's very important for Network Rail.
Thank you. I think the whole industry has learned from some of the collapses in recent years and some of the analysis of those. So jumping back to where we were again about improving inspections and reducing interventions, Hazel, can you give us your view on how things are in Transport Scotland?
Reducing interventions, it's not just about inspections. I would agree with Lila. I think we need to be in a place where our structures are suitably funded to be able to be completely proactive. Over the last 10, 15 years, we've really struggled with budgets to be able to do everything that we would like to try and do things at the right time and do one intervention and deal with a number of issues. What's happened is we've had to prioritise what we do. So you would go in and do some joint repairs or some minor concrete repairs, but really you want to do a whole refurbishment project, but you have to balance your budget across a number of priorities. So I think we're gathering the information from the inspections about what we need to do, but what we need to do with politicians and those that fund us is to sell that case for the intervention, for the budget, to be able to support our structures and keep them in better condition. So that we don't have reactive maintenance. So we're not dashing out to fix a burst parapet or a burst joint on a motorway overbridge, which carries 155,000 vehicles a day. You know, it's really, really disruptive. So we have the information. Like Lila said, we need to be able to analyse it properly. We need to determine what our priorities are and sell the case for that, and sell the case for maintenance to be able to then move on a proactive basis rather than constantly reactive.
I guess that's always the trouble with having 5-year funding periods and moving through that process. So Ben, you're midway through CP6 at the moment, aren't you, in the rail network, and you're looking forward to the future when you go to the Great British Railways, which is perhaps looking 30 years ahead. How does it affect you with having those funding cycles at the moment? How do you think having a 30-year plan will be?
I think it's great for long life assets like bridges that allows us to plot out when we want to make interventions and to align different activities with sort of some of the larger enhancement projects that may come along and affect the network. I think it opens up lots and lots of sort of strategic opportunities in thinking about how we use the railway. I think, like the others, we are using our inspection regime very to about our bridges, and we're seeking to understand them better, to understand the environments in which they sit in, and what they're getting up to day to day, what the usage is, and then we want to use all of that information to make the best decisions possible. So the further out we can look, the better. Moving forward, I think we want to collect more objective data so we can really quantify and measure the changes that are going on in the asset stock. And then we're going to need some really highly skilled people to make some really good decisions, subjective decisions around when we intervene and what work gets done. In my experience, the proactive works that have been most successful is where we pick a particular risk issue and we focus on it. So things like scour protection, introduction, swapping out rotting timbers for GRP, grating, those sorts of activities. And I think what we need to do is more of those sorts of programs, and we need to make them cyclical and slowly but surely dredge ourselves away from the reactive to the proactive.
You just touched on what I was going to ask in my next question, was around skills. What role does skills play in making a change in terms of what we do for inspections? Hazel, can you talk about what the challenges are around skills in Transport Scotland?
I think the skills are in the inspectors themselves. The basis of all our decisions is based on the inspection information that we have. So we need to make sure that our inspectors are suitably qualified. There is a Bridge Inspector certification scheme that's been launched fairly recently, and Transport Scotland are moving towards having all our inspectors accredited to that, whether they're senior or just Bridge Inspector, and having the knowledge and the comfort that people are properly qualified. It's like having somebody come in and service your boiler. You wouldn't have anyone that wasn't Corgi registered, but yet we've got national assets, we've got assets which are safety critical, and basically up until fairly recently, pretty much anybody could go out and do a bridge inspection. So I think skilling our inspectors and making sure that they are aware of their skills and their lack of skills also. So it's a bit like your professional qualification. You know what you know, but you should also be aware of what you don't know and when you need to go and seek advice. So I would really advocate any inspectors in the market getting themselves trained as best they can, and on one of the Bridge Inspector certification schemes. There are a number of them around.
So Lila, are Highways England signing up to that scheme too? Or do you have a different approach?
We have signed up to the bridge, the same certification system BICS for some time now. We did have a bit of a challenge getting enough accredited inspectors to carry on the inspectors that we do need to carry out, and we have come up with the steps to address that, with steps that address it in the shorter term. So how do we make sure that everybody who does a bridge inspection has the right qualification, even if they haven't achieved the qualification through the big system yet? So we've looked at the short term and we looked at the longer term, what we need to do to achieve that. But I will do again what I did earlier, to say this is not just about the qualifications of the bridge inspections, it's the qualifications and the skills of everybody that is involved with the end-to-end approach of asset management and how we manage our structures. I do, however, want to add something else here. This is not just about skills, it is also about culture. And it is about creating the right culture in the organization so that we feel comfortable raising concerns as well as coming up with solutions to address those. We did some work over the last year to tackle the issue of culture and the issue of breaking barriers between organizations. And I've been in this sector for more than 20 years. And every time I go to a conference, someone will mention the break barriers, work together as a team, don't work in silos. We took it very seriously and we have done work to remove those barriers. So we work as teams across the different directors and the different parts of Highways England. And we have introduced a new measure, a new success measure. Is not one of the performance indicators or KPIs that we report to the department, but it is an internal thing that we have set up for ourselves, which we call no unplanned closures due to maintenance, which means that we are not going to find ourselves in a position we have found ourselves in the past. We knew there was an issue somewhere in one of our bridges, we didn't intervene on time, and we ended up then, as part of emergency works, have unplanned closures to our structure to maintain it. We have set a target there and we're working very hard end-to-end across the company to meet that target.
So that's something we'll come on to in a moment.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If we link it back to what you said, Claire, earlier about your earlier question about the customer and disruption and safety, I think we have in this country, we have been very good on the safety element. We make sure our structures are safe. We are not always making sure that we deliver the service through them that we need to deliver. We do have a track record of unplanned closures, which we're trying to remove.
Yeah, we'll come on to that topic in just a moment. Ben, can you talk about the skill side of things? How are you upskilling your bridge inspectors in Network Rail?
So we've just gone through a re-tendering process. So we've reset up our technical specification, which I think for the first time recognises some equivalency with the BICS certification scheme for bridge inspectors. On the railway, we tend to be a bit different. So we're talking 4 foots and 6 foots and up lines and down lines. And the way we describe the positions of defects is slightly different to highways, but we're trying to align around that because we really understand the value in having a sort of a larger pool of bridge inspectors in the country that we can all draw on. And I'll definitely echo what Lila said around, we need skilled people at all phases of bridge inspection programs, from the planning and the project management to the examination and the engineering decisions and the contractors that do the enabling works and follow up with the maintenance and everybody else, all the way through to the economic modelers that are using the data off the back of the program to determine how much money we need to manage safety and performance moving forward. So skills are crucial, and bringing together the people with those skills so we get the full picture of how the whole process works and how we can improve it is vital as well.
So Lila's already touched on the next subject I was going to talk about, which is customer service and experience. So that's something obviously Network Rail's been doing a lot of things around the putting passengers first. Is there a greater challenge on asset owners to minimise disruption caused by inspections than a decade ago? And how are you each managing those challenges? So Ben, I've already touched on Network Rail. Can I come to you first with that one?
Yeah, I suspect it's always been a challenge, but the challenges grow over time, don't they? So as you say, our company vision is putting passengers and freight first, and the timetable is definitely the promise we try and live up to every day, and we get a scorecard every day as to how well we did. We're also increasingly wanting to segregate our workforce from the operations of the network for safety purposes. And what that does is it puts real pressure on the limited opportunities we have for access to the network to get this essential work done. And it's all disciplines that are trying to utilise the same small access windows to be successful. And bridge inspection obviously forms a lot of that. So how do we manage those challenges? Well, from a program perspective, it's about planning far out, locking the plan down early, and then really controlling change in the program, and then managing the risks within the program well. So do we have the road closures, the possessions, the resources, the equipment, the keys, the agreements with tenants to be able to run the program? And from an access perspective, Network Rail is trying to speed up the way in which we can gain access to the network. So faster isolations of electrical systems, faster possession and line blocks, and also looking at how we can collect more data without going on the network through things like forward-facing cameras on trains and the like.
So I guess it's slightly different challenges on the highway network, but it's still challenging to actually plan inspections. Lila, do you want to tell us about Highways England, about how you're trying to minimise disruption?
Yeah, it is different challenges, you're right, but also same challenges, because we do have to work together with other asset owners. Developing our inspection program to minimize disruption means working with Network Rail. We often have to take possession of the railway to go and do our inspections. We have to work with colleagues across local authorities and other infrastructure owners to make sure that it's all planned ahead. Minimize disruption, I've already answered with the issue about the customer, how customer has become important to us. It is worth reminding people that actually Highways England has 3 very well established imperatives at the moment that really drives everything we do, and that is safety, customer and delivery. So you can see that customer is high up there. What do we actually do? I think we're doing a lot of small things coming all together, but the big thing is the thing that I already mentioned, which is the culture, the recognition that actually every time we go out on the network, either for inspection or maintenance or enhancement, we have an impact on our customers, and we have become very good at understanding what that impact is, and therefore take that into consideration when we're making decisions.
Thank you. Hazel, what about Transport Scotland? How are you putting road users first?
Very similar to what Lila's doing in Highways England. I would say over the last 10 years there's been a much larger presence around customer care, about minimising disruption on the network. We try to do as much of our inspection work as possible at night or off peak. Sometimes that makes it quite difficult. You end up with multiple visits to the same structure or to the same location, and it's maybe not sometimes the nicest environment to be in if it's 11 o'clock at night on a Saturday and it's wet and it's reasonably cold, although we do try to avoid doing them in the worst of the winter. We do have a strong focus on customer care in our operating company contracts, and that's been enhanced further with a new contract which has just been let in the South units and shortly to be in the North units. So yeah, minimising disruption for any kind of work, whether it's inspections or maintenance or renewal, it's very much a big focus of what we do in amongst all the engineering aspects of it.
So we've talked a lot about planning inspections and how you schedule them and things. But what about the methods we use? Are we still using the same approaches to inspections that we did 10 to 20 years ago, or have they changed quite recently? Who wants to kick us off on that? Lila, I like picking on you. Come on.
Okay, I am very happy to do that. Inspections have actually changed. They have changed, first of all, because we talked about skills. So the people who carry out the inspections are skilled now, properly skilled, and they understand better what needs to be done. Technology has been introduced. I think my colleagues will all talk about technology on this answer because it's the obvious one. But there are things that we are doing well and things that we need to improve. There are point solutions, so we're looking at different technology in actually to use during the inspection, from simple, very simple things, moving away from paper records to to capturing the information from the inspections on an iPad that we can then directly connect with our bridge management system. We've made huge progress on that. There's still way to go, but we have made huge progress with that. And the technology that we actually use during inspections. But of course, the one that has become very popular is the use of sensors. And where do we put those sensors? What information do they give us? What about overall our approach to remote monitoring of condition of our structures? The one thing that I do want to caveat here is this is all fantastic information and fantastic opportunities that we need to use, but we need to be careful to first of all define what information we need and how we're going to use it, and move away we can measure that, let's go and measure it, move to what do we need to measure. Let's be careful. Data is expensive, and when we collect a lot of data and then we put it somewhere to save it on the cloud and do nothing with it is not a good use of our resources.
So on the topic of data, Hazel, I'll come to you. With the Queensferry crossing, that's got quite a few sensors built in. How are you using that to guide what maintenance and what inspections you do?
Yes, Queensferry Crossing has a lot of sensors and it generates a lot of data. And to be honest, we are still learning about what the data is telling us. So at the moment, we're collecting and keeping everything and looking at the trends. Obviously, we need baselines to be able to then look to see where the changes are. And as we become more confident with that, then the analysed data we will keep and perhaps drop the raw data, but we're not quite at that stage yet. We've also got a lot of sensors on Forth Road Bridge after the truss end link failure, and we've got some sensors on some other of the larger structures, and also some small structures. They tend to be added when a problem is identified, and we start off measuring things, and they tend to kind of grow in scope until we're content that we've got all the information we need. But yeah, data is expensive. You also need the staff to be able to analyse the information that you've got and then make good decisions with it. So I don't see there being a point where we would instrument absolutely everything. It would still be very much a site-specific location and a particular issue that you were trying to look at, apart from perhaps the larger structures like your SG structures, but we don't build many of them over the years.
I guess Queensferry Crossing gave you an opportunity with the new structure going in. So Ben, now where rail uses a lot of drones and things to look at embankments and things like that, do you see that moving into bridge inspections and use of artificial intelligence on the network to do bridge inspections?
Yes, so I think that the use of unmanned aerial vehicles is going to be sort of increasingly prevalent moving forwards. We're already using them in a variety of different places on the network, and I think bridge inspection, we've run sort of large trials, and it's only a matter of time before we start building that into large programs. I think that there's definitely advantages from being able to see structures close up with UAVs and the footage that we can gain and the way in which we can use the information gained to do modelling. I guess a key aspect of our existing inspection regime is that we do need to do some tactile inspection as well. So you know that you can't see all defects. Sometimes you need to tap and sound for them. So we see that the UAVs will be able to help us to identify the locations on structures where we can then go and do targeted inspection. So it's definitely new and old working together hand in hand as we move forward and utilising the skills of everyone. But they have definite advantages. I mean, many of the techniques can also be used from the ground, obviously, because it's the same sort of data collection technology. And there are some things we're not currently able to do yet. So obviously, use of UAVs, the operator still needs to be within sight of the UAV, so you need to still be relatively close to the asset and to be able to see it. And at the moment, I don't think we can fly them underneath structures, because if they lose signal, they fly directly upwards. So we might a strange type of bridge crash.
So not ideal. You might actually cause some damage rather than just inspecting it. Hazel, would you agree that we still need to have people on the ground, that we're not going to suddenly move away from actually having people on site looking at the bridges themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. We exactly the same as Ben, thinking that drones and technology will help pinpoint locations where you would want to put a person with a hammer and a pair of ears to hear whether you've actually got some boss concrete or something like that. Yeah, definitely. We need to marry the two. One will not replace the other. And
okay, just briefly before we move on to some questions from the audience, Lila, would you agree with that too?
Yes and no. Can I give that answer? Yes, I agree. I think we're a long way away from removing the bridge inspector and the bridge engineer away from the process. Absolutely. Do I think we will never do it? I think we will. I think artificial intelligence and technology is changing significantly. We still haven't seen a step change. At the moment, it is an evolution. So we're moving a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I do think, however, that there will be a point where we have the revolution rather than an evolution. And I don't think that is going to be too far away. We certainly do have ambition from removing human intervention from some of these decisions, but we're not there yet. Do I think we'll get there? I think yes, we will get there though.
Okay, so let's take some questions from the audience. Our first one comes in from Sarah Pete, and she's asking, is the digital twin approach being considered to enhance asset management and inspection data recording? Who'd like to kick us off on that one? Ben, shall I put you on the spot? Oh, sorry, Hazel, go on.
I would say we've used digital twin, but much for our larger structures, not for perhaps your smaller culverts or small structures on dual carriageways or what. Definitely for the larger structures, so your Queensferry crossings, Forth Road Bridge, Erskine Bridge, that sort of thing.
What about you, Ben? Network Rail, do you use digital twins on your bridge inspections?
Not yet. So the digital twin technology is definitely being used in our capital programs to construct structures, and I think in asset management we're still learning how we can use the models that are created within those construction projects and best utilize them for the ongoing management of the assets. So it's kind of a skills-based thing, I think, and it will pass through the asset management life cycle. So it starts with construction and then we'll move through into management eventually.
What about you, Lila? How does it work with Highways England and digital twins?
Yeah, very similar to what Ben just said, actually. Yes, I think the approach to digital twins is led by our major projects, so by the construction and the enhancements, and the asset management side of the maintenance asset management side of things is catching up. I think actually the biggest challenge we have is to get all our systems, processes and tools and skills to move at the same pace. From the construction side, we've made huge progress with the digital twins. From the operations and maintenance, not yet. And it has not been a priority, if I'm honest. The drivers, the benefits haven't been there, but we are really looking at what the future will look like then.
Okay, so maybe one for the future. Next questions come in from Musa Chunj, asking what ideas are coming through for how to manage the mountains of data and history and performance of interventions on our assets. He says he's often had to trawl through numerous GI and PI reports and general records for a particular structure to try and understand the full story. He says he's often never sure of the full history of the structure. How can we better use that data? I mean, is that where digital twins come in, that we end up with like a database almost? Maybe not. What do we do? Go on then, Lila.
Shall I have a go? I think actually it's not about digital twin here, it's about better record keeping. And you know, I said before, I've been in this industry for 20 years. We've always talked about we haven't got the right data. And I think what is really important in this, it's exactly the point that was made in the question. What we need is better record of the data. We need to have cleansed, reliable data. And that doesn't mean more money. That doesn't mean new data collection techniques. It probably means bringing together existing data, existing tools and existing systems, and a culture where we put value to our data and we look after it and go away from the thing we've all done. I bet all of us on this call have done that. You know, I need some information. I know it's available somewhere, but I can do better. So I'll create a new spreadsheet and I will go and collect my own data. And then I will have, two versions of the truth. And then Ben will go and do the same with his version of the truth. That's what we need. And that's why I keep saying it's an issue of culture as well as tools and data.
Hazel, how does it sit with Transport Scotland in terms of managing that data?
What we've been trying to do is look at changes in condition and changes in performance over time. So the standards have said, you know, go out and before you go out to do your inspection, review the previous inspection report, but that could only just be 2 years old. Now that we're doing things using tablets and you've got all the information for that structure on your tablet, you can look back for 3 or 4 inspections to see if that particular defect has it been picked up before, has it got worse, has it got better, is it somebody else's interpretation of the extent and severity of that defect, so that you're better informed of what has been found on that particular structure. So I think data presentation, having all the data at your fingertips and using technology in, for example, an iPad or some kind of data capture device, and you can look at photographs, they're geo-referenced, you can see has it got worse, was it reported worse or better last time, and make better decisions.
Great, thank you. We've got about a minute left, so Ben, can you share with us Network Rail's point of view on that, managing data?
I think I definitely agree with what's been said, so that some parts of the past are unknowable to us now because we didn't collect the data at the time, and we need to be better at collecting objective data moving forward and storing it so we can utilise it. But I'm really excited about what data can potentially do for us. We sit on these huge data sets with millions of points of information about defects and condition, and we need to mine that. You mentioned the artificial intelligence techniques earlier, and I think that those data sets can form feature sets and target sets for supervised machine learning techniques that could tell us lots of known unknown type information as we move forward.
Great. I think that's just about all we have time for today. Thank you all for joining us. I think it's a really important topic, and I think it'd be really interesting to look and see where the industry is going in the next 5 to 10 years. I'll certainly be watching that with interest. Thank you.